Hi, good day, everybody. It's Joe DeFeo here, and I hope not to repeat the technological crisis we had last time, and I welcome all of you from around the globe. We have a very large turnout today, and it's probably indicative of the topic, or everybody's sitting home, nothing to do on a summer day, and want something free to do. In any case, the topic today is developing an internal improvement consulting team, or a center of excellence if you prefer. And the topic came about because obviously it's something important that our clients ask for. It's something that's necessary, and we meet various people like yourselves who say, you know, I'm on this consultant team and not sure what we should be doing. So we thought it would be a good idea if we could tackle this one for you. As Scott said, you can ask questions in the upper left-hand corner, and I'll do my best to remind myself to see them. Once in a while, Scott or someone might step in and say, hey, start looking up there. So in any case, let's get rolling here. Why develop an internal consulting team? Well, any successful transformation strategy requires self-sufficiency and sustainability. What we mean by that is you can't live with consultants your whole lives. You can't just keep bringing in the consultants to do all the work for you. Transformational change, particularly ones that use Lean, Six Sigma, process improvement, or process change as the basis, which is a very good way to do it, requires that you train and educate people internally so that you can keep doing this year after year. Transformational change occurs because you change the habits and beliefs of your employees. So therefore, to be self-sufficient and sustainable, you need to have somebody in the organization capable of creating internal expertise and demonstrating that expertise for the organization. And so we look at this as a key factor is to create an internal center of excellence to support the transformation. And I'm going to give you a little history lesson as to why we're where we are today in that regard. For those of you that are new to the Duran Institute and the Duran world, Dr. Duran, let's try that again. There we go. Dr. Duran himself, I started at the bottom. It passed away in 2008 at 103. He started the Institute at the age of 75. We are a global consulting company. He's author of many, many books. He's responsible for naming the Pareto Principle, and various people call him one of the fathers of father of modern-day quality management. Peter Drucker, behavioral scientist, referred to him as the one that did more for American manufacturing than any other person. Duran Institute, which is now Duran Global because we are around the world, is in business to assess, train, consult, and provide certification to people in the principles that we deliver, whether they're Lean, Six Sigma, business process management, cost of poor quality, or simple tools. We have numerous programs that we offer, as well as transformational services to help organizations. We try to publish some of the better books on the subject. Sometimes we hit the mark, sometimes we don't. We do have quite a bit of presence in the healthcare environment as well. Today's agenda, we're going to start with why do we want to create internal consultants and what really led to it. And I think if you understand that, you probably have a better appreciation as to why so many organizations today are training their folks internally. What are the skills required? And more importantly, how do the skills need to change as the organization changes? What must be done to attain and sustain those results? A little bit about educating and certifying internal folks. And then one question is, how much self-sufficiency is right? We see small organizations that want to create a ratio of one belts in the organization, and it's admirable, but is it necessary? They want to create train-the-trainer programs when they're only going to teach one workshop every 3 years. So sometimes self-sufficiency is not the answer for everything you do. Sometimes you might want to farm out the training or farm out the assessment only because you don't have enough people to do it. But in any case, what is the right amount? Let's take a look at history. Some of you may not be old enough to remember, but 60s and 70s were really driven by post-World War II quality assurance standards of performance, meaning you delivered the product that the customer asked for. We had pretty simple processes in place to do that. And if we were conforming to specifications that were written in military standards, one was called Military Standard 9858, If you complied with that, you pretty much met the requirement. And the competitiveness of that requirement was not such that you needed a lot of sophisticated quality systems. You basically had a quality control and a quality assurance system. So we went from customer needs directly to quality of product. The customer was clear, the one that sent you the specification. Over time, we created a certified organization of certified quality engineers, those technical people responsible for quality control, quality assurance of that quality of product. And then we evolved into the 80s, where competitive pressure. I'm going to pause. Can you guys raise your hand? Some people said they're having difficulty hearing me, which is unusual. Scott, can you just do a quick check on that? Okay. I'll just try to talk a little bit louder. How's that? Okay. As we progressed into the 80s, there was a change from not just delivering the quality of product. Okay, Scott, now we have an echo. How's that? Okay, tackle that one. The need for competitive improvement to be able to not just focus on product quality, but reduce defects and reduce the cost of product, because with competitors now everywhere, a product quality in its definition wasn't enough to be competitive. So we focused on and led a very big quality revolution in improving process quality. That revolution is where I began my journey, and I was a quality improvement facilitator, employee involvement team leader, as some of you might have been. And we were trained in not just the technical side of product quality, but how to facilitate problem-solving teams, quality improvement teams, so that we could reduce the cost and reduce the defects of processes. So not only is the product quality getting better, but the efficiency and effectiveness of that was getting better. And from the 80s clear into the middle of the 90s, particularly Western countries were doing very, very well at improving performance. And this was led by these quality assurance, quality control, and quality improvement facilitators. But as you know, we keep moving. The definition of the product was no longer just the physical good. It became also the service. And when you start looking at the service, you're looking at the customer experience. And as you look at the customer experience, you have to have more and better information. So as we moved into the 2000s, we needed more sophistication. We needed to move beyond the quality of product, quality of process, to really the quality of the organization. And all along the way, one thing that has changed are who are the customers and what are their needs. And so when we had very few competitors for our products or services, and we delivered them adequately to our customer, they were pleased, we made money. Then competitiveness came along as we expanded our economies and expanded our cultures and size of countries, and we had to do better than that. And so this evolution continues today. And we've created certified quality managers, Six Sigma black belts, lean experts and senseis, project management certifications, business process optimization and managers. Certified public accountants are even in the mix, certified quality auditors. In other words, we needed broader skill sets to attack the broader organization. Why? Well, one reason is the customers keep changing. The customers aren't just the external customers who require us to be good. It also is our stakeholders, and our stakeholders today are broader. So as we move forward, We're looking at moving from this little Q to a very big enterprise-wide quality or enterprise-wide performance. And as we do that, we can't just rely on the quality department as it was, and some of the organizations don't even have them in service industries and financial industries, and they have a day-to-day assignment anyway. What we're looking at is broad, system-wide process improvement across many parts of an organization. And when we look at who the customer is today, it's not just the external customer, although they are the most important one. We have to abide by various regulatory requirements, SEC requirements, so the board is involved. The financial executives, because we obviously have to abide by various laws and also profitability. Auditors of all kinds, whether they be third-party quality auditors or whether they be financial auditors or government auditors or environmental auditors, we have to meet their requirements. And so when you start to look at this list of who the customer needs to be, if we look at who the customer is we need to satisfy, we have to think broader. Therefore, we apply it broader in the organization, and therefore we need a different skill set for our Center of Excellence. So today, we believe a business needs a well-balanced staff capable of integrating multiple methods for the right purpose at the right time. So, and I'm going to elaborate on what that means because it's essential to getting an effective organization. As cost competitiveness becomes part of our everyday life, organizations look for ways to reduce costs. At the same time, customers are asking for needs at higher and higher levels. And so the sophistication of our business systems gets to the point where we don't have to have large quality assurance, large quality control organizations, large financial auditing organizations, large environmental auditing organizations. So what we see is this coming together as an integrated function of auditing what's important to the business. And what's important to the business as it relates to efficiency and effectiveness fall into the hands of our Center of Excellence regarding performance and our internal consulting team. So as we become more of an integrated function, we become more of internal consultants rather than day-to-day police-like people or day-to-day auditors. And so what I want you to think about is if you're in a Center of Excellence today, you exist because your organization is moving to meet the many needs of its organizational customers. And when you do that, those internal customers require help and support to stop looking all the time at the day-to-day activities and look ahead at important metrics aligned to the business, changing of processes, and using methods that help them get to where they want to go. I'm going to stop for a second here, and we're going to take a poll. Sometimes, so here we go. This allows you folks to take a shot. If you had to grade your internal consulting team, what grade would you give it? If you don't have an internal consulting team, just place no vote. I'll give you guys a couple seconds there. And for those of you who are new to this function, you can see on the screen where everyone is. And for those of you who are already putting up, it's about a third of you have no such team exists in the organization. Maybe by a show of hands, do you see your organization moving in this direction? Well, we know who's capable of raising their hand. Okay, good, good. What's interesting is none of you have a highly functioning improvement team out there, except, I believe, one or two. So the good thing is you're all here to learn. The bad thing, I guess, is that you're going to learn from me. So I'm glad to see there's quite a range of folks here. So let's go back to our lobby. Bingo. So what we want to do is start thinking about an internal consulting team or Center of Excellence for performance improvement as an integrated function at some point in the future. We see its purpose as one that can move the culture. And what do we mean by culture? Driving the organizational beliefs and habits which are set forth in policies and processes. so that your organization can develop and deliver products and services that will no doubt meet its customer and stakeholder needs. If you ask yourself the question, are your services, products, and processes right now of no doubt in meeting its internal or external customer needs? No doubt, meaning every day you perform it, it works. If you have any doubt, you need to move forward and try to do something. And I also want you to think that organizational beliefs and habits don't change until you first implement methods to help the change happen. Those methods are what you all are experts at. Lean, Six Sigma, business process management. Those are the methods that help us change our beliefs. And as we change our beliefs, our habits become habit forming and we start to learn better habits and new habits. So where we never looked at data before, we implement things to help us look at data today. As we see the benefit of data analysis, then we continue to do more of it. We set out to put people on disciplined improvement teams. We do that because before we were all led to believe we could just fix things. Then when we see the improvement team getting successful, we all want to be on teams. And this snowball effect changes our habits and beliefs. The question is, if you're good, how much further do you have to go to get no doubt? And I steal the term no doubt from the aerospace and defense industry because the mission in a defense industry is to assure that your war soldiers, the people at the front lines fighting for our safety, every time they use a product or service, it has to work. There's no doubt. So the purpose of our COE in our eyes is to make sure the organization can say there's no doubt our processes and services are working. And we get that through our education, our training, and our internal consulting support. Now, it's not just enough to say I have a team of 2 people or 5 people or 200 people that are capable. You have to really think about this over time. For instance, we can't change the habits and beliefs in a month or 3 months. Very large organizations take years. We can get results in 3 months, but to get that culture change requires time. So we subscribe to a phased set of activities that help transform an organization. For instance, we begin with decide. An organization must decide they have proof of the need to change. And then they mobilize the leadership for that change. They go out and visit other companies, they go out and visit other leaders, they talk to experts like us, they talk about the methodologies, they talk about their problems, they talk to their board, and eventually they set out to say we need to do something different. And the skill set required of the internal consultants must be strategic in nature at this point. So someone's got to have some information and some big picture on strategy, and also open-mindedness to the methods so that you can adequately create a plan, which is in the prepare stage, that helps the organization move forward. The preparation of a plan and the infrastructure allows the organization to make sure they are enabling the staff, the working environment, to move forward, make improvements, make change, get education, get resources. The preparation phase requires more tactical team members, those who know how to develop a business plan, know how to select projects, know how to identify the right metrics. And as we prepare, we also then begin to launch. And in our launch phase, we're actually launching various activities aimed at change. It could be assessments, it could be reviews, it could be education, it could be process improvement teams, it could be lean events. Whatever the methods are that we require, we need that expertise. So now we need good technical expertise in the right methods. And as we do this for months and years, we begin to expand beyond the low-hanging fruit into the more difficult fruit, into the forest, into the continent, across the organization, and we just keep doing this. We don't expand necessarily the amount of people on our staff, we expand the organization's capability. And eventually we get to a level of great performance, and we need to sustain that. And sustaining transformation, which is a new culture, requires forward thinking. It requires looking outside oneself. It requires more of a strategic approach once again, strong benchmarking capabilities. So if we were to map the transformation stages over time with the capabilities, you want to be able to move your staff capabilities ahead of the need to transform it. Number of years we conduct a study of people like yourself who are in position of making change happen. And initially the study shows that about 75% of the people that are hired to implement change in their organizations are unsuccessful at the change. Not because they're incapable, but because no one matched the skill set to the maturity level of the organization. So if one of you right now were to go to GE or any of the larger companies that have been doing Six Sigma-like work or Lean for a long time, they're going to expect you to come in with some very deep experiences, methods, certifications. Why? Because they're up there in that sustain and renew area. They're in the sustain area of the business. They want advancement. If you were to get hired by a company saying, we just need to begin where we're at, you'd have to be pretty good at doing some assessment and review and some diagnosis. So in other words, you might have the skill set of a lean expert or a green belt, but you don't have the expertise as a master black belt. And so therefore you feel out of sync with the maturity. So a center of excellence should have a balance of team members that can cover all steps in a maturity. And that maturity also comes with the need to provide the right method at the right time. We see so many hospitals want to train everybody as a black belt and change the culture that way without recognizing the fact that that's too big of a leap in some cases. You need to start small with some simple lean event or a quality improvement team. So transformation versus capabilities, your team has to have both the right capability and skill set to match that transformation. Now, those capabilities change over time. And this is why we hear so many executives say to me and say to us, you know, I can't seem to get my improvement team moving in the direction we are. They seem to be stuck on wanting to do the same things over and over again. Well, if you don't continuously change your tool set, you're going to think that every nail needs a hammer, and the only hammer you have in your box is the one method, so you're going to hit it. And the reality is there are many kind of issues in an organization and many methods that must help it. And your job is to try to continuously sort out and seek out what might be the best thing for you right now. So one of the first steps is to establish a team. And these are the things that we feel are very, very important when you establish that team. That its purpose is to get greater understanding of stakeholder needs so that the business operators can work towards their mission. So we need skills in trying to understand how do we understand customer needs and customer loyalty. We need to always focus on process optimization, and the best approach is multifunctional improvement with Lean and Six Sigma-like methods. We need to have capability of integrating other management systems. How many times I hear an organization say we're doing our 4th audit. The same people are in the quality audit and the safety audit, the financial audit, and the environmental audit. Can't we combine those? So understanding the pressure and workload put on the people you serve and integrating that. Creating an integrated COE function, meaning you might have to bring in the quality department, you might have to bring in financial audit, or they might be bringing you in. But this integrated approach is to integrate the process. And so if you don't have an integrated function, you're always going to be fighting. And so many times we hear the quality fight against the lean fight, against the business process people, against the strategy fight. You're all on the same battlefield, but you're not under the same roof. Then you have to, if you were on the last couple webinars I did, that staff must also be multilingual, collectively, meaning if I have 6 people on my staff and they all know the same tool, we are not going to be very effective. But if I have 6 people on my staff and I've got a great Six Sigma expert, a lean expert, a business process expert, a culture expert, a team building expert, then I've got a multilingual capability. And the goal will be to get everybody to the same level of each other in their own expertise over time, because needs change. And we also want to make sure that all staff members know how to speak the language of business. If I were to say in a nutshell, the job of the Center of Excellence is to convert those methods you have into successful changes that affect the business outcomes. No doubt you are going to be multitasking consultants. You're going to ask to be doing assessments, you're going to ask to be doing training, you're going to ask to be doing consulting, you're going to ask to be doing white papers. So you better get good at the tools, the methods, and learn how to multitask, because you're probably going to be limited in resources initially, and you're going to do a lot of that work. And if you've known any consultants or consulting companies, most consulting companies don't have big staffs. They have consultants who do their own analysis, their own work, their own research, their own Googleness, and then they publish. And that's probably what you guys are going to have to go through as well. One thing to keep in mind, you can't help the organization move forward if you don't review your own performance. And so we recommend a company-wide review by a COE group annually, and your own review at least twice a year. So many times we hear the business is getting concerned we're not making progress. Well, why aren't you making progress? And you need to go find out why. So building in an annual deployment review process for the transformation as well as for your group is the norm. So when you think about establishing a team, you notice it's not just about who's belt certified. It's really trying to find the right people with those skills that can meet the requirements so that you can be effective. Now, to establish the team and the size of the team, obviously you need to know the scope you have. And I can't answer that question here, but one thing for sure, if you have nobody, you won't get anywhere. If you have somebody, you have a start. Also, there's a lot of myths out there that we need, 10 black belts for every 100 people in the company. That depends on the level of pain you have, the level of improvement you need. So don't just base the number of people you have on external benchmarks. Base it on what level of improvement you need to get done and how many people can help you do that. In our session coming up in 2 months, we're talking about the cost of poor quality, and we show you a method for determining how many people you need to attack what level of performance. A second item is to understand KSAs. That is the knowledge, skills, and abilities of your staff. How well does your team or the team you're hiring going to match the requirements you need? Are you the GE or are you the new guy? Can you fill them internally? Do we have other capable people in the organization who could learn? Or do we need external help? Many times we get in there and we're working with a client. They're beginning to establish their internal consultants, and our job is to help them get self-sufficient, transfer knowledge. So initially we help them, but over the long term we try to get out and you help yourselves. And I'd like to point out that just attending a workshop or reading on Google does not make one an expert. We found that the 1, 2, 3 certification plan being the most successful. That is, if you want to create a lean expert in rapid improvement event, you first get trained, you second, you participate, and third, you co-teach. In other words, you learn what you're going to do, you observe doing it, and then you co-conduct it with the expert. And if you do that for every tool, every method, you will find a faster way to success because you're giving people the time it takes to learn, do, and be an expert at that. If you hire someone in who's got a green belt or a black belt or a lean belt and they are already certified, they may not be certified in the way you teach it, the mix of experiences you have, the exercises. So we still require and agree to a 1, 2, 3 even for the new people. Because even when I hire new consultants or new trainers, they don't know the way we do it. So you want to think about this 1, 2, 3. Train it, observe it, participate in it, and then co-teach it. Now, I mentioned a couple of times about the methods, and this is very important. You can have the right skill set of people capable, but you can't just have one toolbox. You just can't have one tool in the box. Carpenters and electricians don't build houses with one tool. So, depending on the business needs, there are just do-its, which you all know. We identify the problem, we know the solution, let's go change it. There are small gain improvements. We're not sure the solution, but it's a small gain, so we don't have to spend a lot of time on it. Or we have really large gain improvement opportunities, and then we have some new things we need to create. Depending on, we like to bucket it this way because if you got just do-its, there's a clear solution. Stop wasting your time, assess it, analyze it, and change it. The reality there is if there's low risk of losing money or losing lives or losing customers, do it. If you have a small gain, might be something as simple as root cause analysis, an A3 or an A4, to get you where you need to go. Doesn't require a multifunctional team necessarily, just requires good analysis. But these large gains, these value stream processes, value streams that you want to attack from end to end, when you start doing that, you start crossing departmental borders. You start getting people to have turf wars. Those large gains need large tools. And that's why the larger lean tool set and the Six Sigma DMAIC are the best for those. And don't mix up improvement with design. Creating something new requires a different way to think about customers and marketplace and the tool set. We think of that as a white sheet of paper and starting over. So as you're selecting your team, you also need to think about the broadness of your methods that you're going to employ. If all you have in your toolkit is ISO 9000, there's a pretty good chance you're frustrated, and so is your organization, because you're going to get to a point where you're not going to be able to get the large gains. If all you have in your pocket is a Six Sigma program, you're probably going to get frustrated because some of the problems you have can be done with smaller tools. So that's why you have to have an open-mindedness and evolve over time and improve your skill set over time. I'm going to alert you now to poll number 2. Poll number 2. Oh boy, give me some criticism. Are my remarks, comments, and advice on target? Keep in mind, I see this. I can't see any smiley faces, but I'm hoping that the message is moving in the right direction. And that 1 or 2 people that are going to say you're not helping me much, just send me your name and we'll have a chat. Oh, see, I knew I got one there. Good, we have a little time. So, we've got a team of people capable. We picked the right methods. So, how do we become self-sufficient? Well, what we want to do is make sure that we have an alignment to the company transformation plan or the company strategy. That means we have to have our own plan aligned to whatever plan is out there. We don't exist because someone said let's create a team. We exist because we're going to carry out something. So we need to have basically understanding of what the business is trying to accomplish, make sure that we are aligned to that, and make sure that we are structured in the organization to support that. Meaning if this is driven by the CEO, COO office, then we better be at a high level. If this is being driven from a business unit, then we should be at the business unit level, or both. Where you fit sends a message as to how effective you will be. But I will say this, the effectiveness of a team is more important with your skills and capabilities and maturity level than it is where you sit in the organization. Good consultants are good consultants regardless of the company's performance. Think about the McKinseys of the world or the Durans of the world. There's a company, but everybody likes a particular consultant. So even internally, you don't have to be reporting to the CEO. As a matter of fact, reporting to the CEO is something you want to earn, and you earn that by being good. And good consultants will eventually get there because they are doing the right things for the business at the right time. Now, your department or your function, your team also has to develop its own charter to understand what we're doing. What do we do? Are we trainers? Are we consultants? Are we assessors? Are we recommenders? What are we? And what do we need to do? We need to also know who's going to do it within our team. What are their job responsibilities? I see the multifunctional teams. Some people are trainers, some people are assessors, some people are consultants. Over time that may change, but some people are good at training, some people are not. And so we want to make sure we know who the trainers are, who the mentors are, and those might be those facilitating people, belts who are facilitating projects. So we basically need our own job descriptions and our own job charters so that we're aligned to the organization deployment plan. Now you might ask, well, what if our organization doesn't have a deployment plan? Well, then you must be in a pre-implementation planning, and your job as the expertise is to help them develop one. And in order to develop one, you have to know what one is. So your job is to make sure you can help the organization through that transformation roadmap by doing the right things up front, getting them to understand, what are we doing this for? Why do we need to do it? What are the first steps we need to do, not the last step we need to do? So your job is to learn how to develop a business plan for transformation if that's what you have to do. Then once we have the criteria, provide some assessment of your progress. Look at the KSA's gaps. How are people doing? Recently, we audited a very large healthcare organization, 1,500 plus belts. Been doing it for a long time, very successful. But they started to see some gaps in business performance, and they wanted to know what was going on. So we reviewed the requirements of the position, the skill set, so the knowledge, the skills of that, and the attitudes, and we identified some gaps. And the gaps really were in that maturity level, that the belts were not keeping up with the changes in the business unit. They weren't expanding their capabilities. So as an organization runs out of low-hanging fruit, you have to be much better at data analysis to get in there and find the low-hanging fruit, or the deeper hanging fruit. So by establishing this review, we were able to identify the gaps, and some of the gaps were closed by training, other gaps were closed by observation and practice, but it was able to get them back on track. We believe that the way organizations move so quickly, you should really review the maturity between your team and team members and the business unit they support twice a year. Obviously, KSAs are also tied to a compensation plan in some ways, meaning you can use certification as a way to keep them moving forward and getting a higher and higher skill set, and also tying their extra compensation to achieving that higher skill set. You have to look at internal customer satisfaction. I hate it when I hear our business partners are complaining and we're not doing anything about it. Well, one thing you can do about it is you can do your own testing, your own assessment, contact them, do a little poll, find out what's driving them. And what usually happens is not necessarily that your skill set needs to change, but that their business need changed and you're unwilling to stop the long project you're running on because they no longer need that. So in other words, you're not being supportive of their current need. Now, if they're just running around rambling and doing all kinds of things, it's different. But a lot of times we see the business need saying, listen, something changed. I need to realign. And so you got to realign your skill set. And it might mean putting a different person in that business unit. The last part is then to make sure we match our development plan internally to the deployment plan. If we have a 5-year business plan for the organization, and I have a staff capable of getting us to the next 3 years, well, what are we going to do to get us for those last 2? Do we have to keep hiring? Do we need to create a development plan? Whatever it may be, that someone internally has got to look at that and say, we can't lead the organization if we're not leading ahead of ourselves as well. I mentioned the annual deployment review. What gets measured gets done. You can't be afraid to put some egg on your face and find out what people think of you. And it could be 5 questions, it could be 10 questions, it could just be a phone call that says, hey, how are we doing? If you want a organization-wide benchmark, you can use Baldrige-like assessment tool. It's a very broad brush. It gives you a lot of good information. If you want to just assess your own COE capability, there are various tools you can do that with, but the goal is to do something and do it at the level you need to do it. Ask your customers, how are we doing? Ask them to write letter of recommendations. If not, ask them to tell you what's wrong. Recently, I assessed my staff at a client, and it was very interesting. One of the comments were, your staff wasn't available on the day that I was available, so I kept missing the meetings. And when I went back to the staff, I said, are you guys aware that this executive's unhappy because of that? And they said, no. And sometimes it takes another person to ask, so don't be afraid to ask. And do it unit by unit. You don't ask everybody in the whole company how we're doing. You do it by the people you're working with. You also want to start thinking about the metrics that you use to measure your performance, which on the next slide I'm going to give you a little clearer picture of that. So, you're dealing with people, so ask manager if their people skills are improved. It's a qualitative metric that could be said by how many people they've trained and participated or certified, but it's a start. Overall, how's the culture? In other words, how's your group acting? Are they acting different? We see so many times after 1 or 2 improvements, they say, man, my team is so motivated now. That's a qualitative measure. Process. Are you reducing non-value added activities? Is it getting more effective, more efficient? And these are more quantitative. Financial, quantitative. Have we been able to move the needles on cost or sales? And then in quality, is the organization reducing defects? Is the product being accepted more? These are the measures of your performance. Just like the quality department of the past was blamed for the goodness of quality and the badness, now we have accepted responsibility for helping the organization move forward. We don't own the pain, but we own the ability to help them through the pain. So having the right metrics in place will be useful. So I think we have one poll here, and I'd like to do that in a moment. I don't know why a couple of you are having a little audio problems, but for the most part, everybody's good. So our 5 points. Why a COE? To drive change. That's your job, to drive change. If you're initially a small team, over time you will grow to drive change. You don't drive change by being an expert. You drive change by being an expert and leading others to learn what you know. You're there to attain results. Use the right method at the right time and measure those right things. You have to have a skill set to increase the organization's success as its maturity changes. As you transform, it transforms. You must educate continuously to be bilingual and learn the new methods. And as far as self-sufficiency goes, you may not know what's right for your organization, meaning don't try to take on everything initially or say, I'm going to be the trainer or I'm going to be everything. You're going to run out of time, and you're not going to get good enough at some of it. We find that we are the trainer or certifier for many companies 5, 6, 10 years out because they don't want to lose the capabilities of the trainers, but they take on everything else. So being self-sufficient in our eyes means having internal capability to test yourselves, assess yourselves, teach yourselves, run everything you can, but if you get stuck, you know you can go outside and get that help. Our last poll of the day, before I sign off, would you like to hear more about the subject? And what we mean by this is that we're picking our webinars for the year and additional webinars, and this is very helpful. We're not sure. We can't poll everybody how they would like, what they would like to see, although we did that a couple weeks ago. So we asked this question. And number 2, if you want more information, you know how to find us, and we could provide you with more information on that, and we do appreciate that. Now say thank you. I wish maybe we can get to a point where we can all be on the video together, and I would truly like to do that. I hope we can see you at future webinars, and you can contact us at any time to get a copy of this presentation. And meanwhile, thank you very much, and I'd like to turn it back over to Scott, or just listen to